So that's all the files imported so far. We've got a few bits missing, so I'm going to wait for those and then start the mixing.
Or so he thought.
I think I'm losing the battle. So yesterday was just one of those days where everything just went wrong with the mixing. Basically, I opened Logic and everything had just disappeared. And this was about 9 o'clock last night. I thought to get myself through it, I'd film it and document it. But even that didn't work because the microphone on my camera decided not to record any audio. So here's a little montage of me looking confused and upset.
Many unbearable hours later.
So I've managed to get all the files back into Logic now. I guess we just start the editing and mixing again. These things happen, you know, but it's always a pain in the ass when it does happen. Waste of time.
The next day.
Sounding really good. So I was up quite late last night, re-importing all the files and remixing it basically and doing some editing and stuff like that. Luckily I'd backed it up on another drive at an earlier stage, so having that backup really meant I didn't have to go back to square one, but it's just so disheartening and it's a real test. It's like, do you really want to do this? And the answer is yes. So I'm just going to speak a little bit about the mix. I'm not going to go into too much detail. So what I'm basically trying to do is recreate if you were looking at an orchestra. So if you kind of imagine, I always wear headphones not for the mixing but to just kind of place everything and then close my eyes and think, you know, over here would be the first violins, second violins, violas, cellos. Further away you've got the wind and brass. So, but it's just a trial and error. I used to think that I needed to figure out what, you know, the system was, but I think that's the worst thing, is where you fall into just doing what you always do. And I think each mix that we've done, each kind of piece that we've put out over the last year, I want to change something and learn something new. So I've been using this plugin called Pan Pot. It's basically just a better version of panning to left and right. I feel like I can create a lot more space, place the instruments in their own place so that you've got that kind of, yeah, space, but also, because with an orchestra there's so much going on, all the frequencies are filled and all the space is filled. So having this just enables to make a bit of space, and because everyone's recorded separately, their signal is in that space. So when I bring in a reverb, it brings them into a kind of unified space, but their kind of signal is in one place. And so it's been a bit of a trial and error with that. And then reverbs, before now I was just using the Logic reverbs, which are great, but I've also now got this gold plate reverb, which is incredible. This is just so much more, I don't know, it sounds a lot more alive and there's a lot more kind of vibrance to the sound of the space. And I've also got a plugin called Valhalla, again, one of these plugins that I've been recommended. I know very little about these things, but the people who recommend them to me are people that I really respect, and so I always try and, if I can afford it, I always try and get these plugins to have a play around with, and the two of these seem to sound really nice. The gold plate creates a really nice space, and then the Valhalla creates, I don't know, a bit more kind of warmth in a way. It's coming together really nicely. I've not mixed the drums and bass yet. That's always the challenge, is how to make the drums sound like they're in the same space, but also keep the attack and the punch that you want from a drum beat. But yeah, I mean, last night was a very dark time, but I think when you come back out, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, you come back out of that. It's just part of the process, and I think these little failures, these little things will always happen. So that's it for now. Stay safe, take care, speak to you soon.